Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to dive deep into the very precise and honestly pretty alarming language of a text titled Equity Stripped, the Predatory Reality of Reverse Mortgages. We're analyzing a highly charged source here, and our goal is to meticulously unpack exactly how this text frames a really common financial tool. Now, to be clear, we aren't here to take sides today. Instead, we're just going to break down the mechanics of the source's argument and try to understand the really stark picture it paints through its carefully chosen words.
So, let's start by asking ourselves this vital question, which perfectly captures the urgent and unsettling tone of the material we're looking at. Notice how the word safe jumps out at you? It immediately bypasses all that dry financial jargon and goes straight for the jugular, the security of your family's most valuable asset. It basically forces you to confront the idea that something you probably assumed was totally secure might actually be in jeopardy. It's a direct, kind of intense way to immediately command your attention.
Okay, let's really dive into this. This is the exact phrasing straight from our source text, and we're going to spend the next few minutes deconstructing these heavy, specific claims. Just look at the concentration of aggressive words in this one single sentence. We've got trap, steals, and stripped. The author isn't gently easing us into a debate about interest rates or loan structures. No, they're launching a direct rhetorical assault. As we go through this explainer, I really want you to pay close attention to how these words actively transform a standard financial transaction into a gripping drama with very clear victims and villains.
Section 1. The Reverse Mortgage Trap.
Notice how the source defines a reverse mortgage not as a service, and definitely not as a loan option, but explicitly as a dangerous snare designed to capture the unsuspecting. What's truly fascinating here is the massive paradigm shift it demands from the reader. Usually, we think of mortgages as tools, right? Tools to build or access wealth. But by defining it strictly as a trap, the source completely flips that understanding on its head. A trap implies concealment. It implies an illusion of safety masking a hidden danger. The text is literally telling us, do not trust what you see on the surface.
This perfectly illustrates the stark contrast between what you might assume a reverse mortgage offers versus the grim predatory reality laid out in the text. To put things in perspective, tens of thousands of reverse mortgages are originated annually in the U.S. as standard, federally regulated financial tools. Yet, on one side here, we have the conventional marketing pitch you've probably seen on TV: financial freedom, relaxed retirements, staying in your home. On the other side, we have the source's stark assertion, a predatory trap. The text completely rejects the whole financial freedom narrative. It doesn't just say it's a flawed product, it presents it as a fundamentally dangerous mechanism.
Section 2. A predatory reality. By isolating this one powerful word, predatory, we can clearly see the source's intent to characterize this entire financial ecosystem as hostile and exploitative. Think about it. Predatory is a biological term. It immediately evokes images of nature documentaries, like a hunter stalking its prey. By applying this specific word to a financial product, the source is asserting a massive power imbalance. Predators look for weakness, right? They look for the vulnerable. The text is aggressively arguing that this isn't some mutual agreement between equal parties, but rather a calculated hunt.
Looking at this list, it's wild how the source leaves absolutely zero room for ambiguity about the impending danger. They don't say this is a potential risk or a possible outcome. No, they call it a reality. When you combine reality with trap and predatory, the message becomes cumulative and absolute. The source is constructing an airtight argument that if you engage with this system, you are stepping into a predefined role as prey. It's a very calculated use of absolute language to completely eliminate any gray area for the reader.
Section 3. How Wall Street Steals. Well, if there's a predatory trap, as the text claims, we absolutely have to ask, who exactly is laying out the bait? In any narrative about exploitation, identifying the aggressor is key to understanding the dynamic. And the source certainly doesn't leave us guessing here.
The source points the finger directly and unequivocally at Wall Street as the grand architect of this trap. Not individual brokers, not the housing market itself, but Wall Street. This is a brilliant strategic choice. Wall Street operates in our culture as this massive monolith, a faceless, immensely powerful, and highly resourced entity. By positioning Wall Street as the predator, the text immediately sets up a massive David versus Goliath scenario, which instantly amplifies the sense of danger and unfairness. The really crucial point here is that the text frames this action not as a business transaction or a loan agreement with heavy fees, but literally as theft. That is a massive, severe accusation that we are objectively unpacking here. The word steals implies outright criminality. It implies taking something without permission or legal right. By using steals instead of words like charges or depletes, the source completely bypasses any debate about contract law or agreed-upon terms. Instead, it asserts that the very nature of this wealth extraction is fundamentally illegitimate and morally bankrupt.
Section 4. Grandparents' equity stripped.
Now we arrive at the emotional core of the text. It specifically names your grandparents to highlight the extreme vulnerability of elderly family members. Notice it doesn't just say senior citizens or retirees. Those are just cold demographic categories. Your grandparents is deeply personal. It immediately sparks a sense of familial duty, protectiveness, and affection in the reader. The source uses this phrase to ensure you are emotionally invested right from the jump. It's no longer some abstract financial issue happening to strangers. It is framed as a direct threat to the people you love.
Notice how this maps out the conceptual narrative sequence embedded right in the text. It's basically a 3-act tragedy laid out in just a few words. First, the vulnerable target is identified. Second, the powerful antagonist executes the malicious action. And third, the devastating result is realized. This structure is incredibly effective for retention because it gives our brains a complete, logical story arc to follow, entirely based on the source's framing.
As we can see, the text paints this as a harsh zero-sum game, pitting the hard-earned assets of the elderly directly against the mega institutions of Wall Street. There's absolutely no mutual benefit in the world this text describes. For Wall Street to win, your grandparents must lose. The equity, which, let's remember, usually represents a lifetime of labor, mortgage payments, and savings, is positioned merely as the fuel for Wall Street's gain. It really underscores the profound imbalance of power and consequence that the source is desperately warning us about.
The phrase equity stripped is the final devastating outcome the source warns about, leaving nothing behind for the family. Let's really think about the word stripped for a second. It doesn't just mean reduced or lowered. Stripped implies a complete, total removal, leaving something bare and exposed. It suggests a violent or forceful taking until there is absolutely nothing left. In the context of generational wealth, to have a home stripped of its equity means the legacy is just gone. It is an incredibly powerful visual word that finalizes the warning the author is sounding.
So based on the intense, predatory reality presented by our source, we have to leave you with this final, provocative thought about the safety of your own family's financial future. The text we've analyzed today paints a picture of a landscape absolutely filled with hidden dangers and powerful entities looking to extract wealth from the most vulnerable among us. It forces us to ask, if the system operates exactly as this source claims, are we paying close enough attention to the contracts our loved ones are signing? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep asking those tough questions.